Sup, gang? Welcome to your assignment for today on rounding and multiplying by multiples of 10. Today, if you have a pretty good grasp of rounding and multiplying in your head, it should be pretty quick and easy. But some of us could use a little bit of practice. This is what we're going to do. First, we're going to focus on rounding numbers. And that looks like this. Essentially, you take a number and you make it to a different number that's close to it, but a little bit easier to work with. That's what rounding is. So for example, if I took this number 409 and I said round this number to the nearest 100, I want you to make this number go from 4 all the way down with just zeros. So you're going to try and put as many zeros as the number's possible. It's kind of what rounding is. So what you'll do is you'll take a look at the hundreds place, which is a 4. You take a glance over at the tens place, and if that number is a 4 or lower, then you keep it the same, and this number will stay a 400. And we would say, oh, this is 400. If this number right here is a 5 or higher, then this number would bump up to, we would round it to a 500. So we're looking for which of these numbers here is closer to our original number that we could just round to and say, it's about that. So 409 is about 400 or 500. It's about 400 because that 0 there is below a 4 or a 4 or lower. So it just tells us to round this to a 400, and we would say that's a 400. It's not that exact number, but it's just around to it. It's around it, right? It's close to it. How about this number? 8,337. What if I told you to round this number to the nearest 100 as well? Okay, so we would take a look at our hundreds place, which is there's 3 there. Okay, all the stuff to the left, we're going to keep the same, but it's what's after it that we're worried about. This 3 tells us to keep that 3 the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to write 8,300 because the 3 is below a 5. It tells us to keep this the same. And then the rest of this just becomes zeros. So this actually rounds to, if we're rounding the nearest 100, 8,300 because of what that told us to do right there. Now this number here, a little bit larger number, 91,565. What if I told you to round this number to the nearest 1,000? Go ahead and try that on your own here if you want to pause the video real quick. Round this one to the nearest 1,000. If I'm rounding to the nearest thousands place, then this is going to be 90-something thousand, right? I already know that, 90-something thousand. But this number right here is going to determine if that stays a 1 or if it bumps up to a 2. And since it's at a 5 or higher, this bumps up to a 2. And then the rest of those numbers just become zeros. And the answer to this is 92,000. And you know that your round is probably correct if it looks really close to that number right there, which it does. Now, that's rounding. So you're going to have a few questions about how to round numbers. And if you need to rewatch this little video real quick, please do that. But the next part of your lesson is to take multiples of 10 and multiply them together. And I'm going to teach you a really easy way to do this. And most of us do know this, but if you didn't know it, here's how it works. If you have two numbers you're going to multiply together, and you have multiples of 10, numbers with zeros at the end of them, you can multiply together these digits and then just add any of these zeros at the end of it. So for example, 20 times 3 is really 2 times 3, which is 6, with a 0 on it. And your answer would be 60. So 20 times 3 is 60. So again, you look at just the digits right here that aren't zeros, you multiply those together, and then just put the 0 on at the end. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus 0 makes it 60. Here's an example of 15 times 20, which might be a difficult problem. But if you know the trick of just covering up the 0 and you do 15 times 2, well, 15 times 2 is 30, plus that extra 0, then you know that 15 times 20 is 300. Try this one. You can even do them in your head. That's kind of the point of this. Just practice doing these in your head. So what you would do is just take a look at the digits, because we know there's multiples of 10, because they end in 0. And we multiply 4 times 4, which is 16. But we have 2 zeros to add to it. So we now know that 40 times 40 is 1,600. And then finally here, our last example, 7,000 times 30, which seems like a ridiculous problem to know the answer to. But if we use this little trick, we should be able to find it. 7,000 times 30, if I just cover up all these zeros, and I just do 7 times 3, which is a nice little math fact I know, which is 21. And then I add 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros to the end of it. 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros to the end of it. I'm going to slap my comma in there. 210,000. So I think that's a really cool way to learn how to multiply times multiples of 10. And it really helps with estimating and rounding. So hopefully this lesson goes well for you guys today. If you have questions, let me know. Have a good day.